First, though, your thoughts on the latest change to university admissions. From next year, admissions officers will know what applicants' parents do for a living, whether they too went to university, whether or not they are middle class. The idea is to help more working class kids into university, but critics fear the idea of judging students not on their own merits, but by their parents, is the very worst kind of social engineering. And I have to say, it does seem riddled with potential pitfalls. I mean, say you're a public schoolboy whose parents are multi-millionaire property developers. What's to stop you claiming dad's a builder when you fill in your UCAS form? Or just lying full stop? I mean, why not? And what about those students whose parents have a degree but are also working class? I can tell you they do exist. Will they go to the back of the queue? I mean, that's madness. And what about the principle of judging each applicant on their own merit, initially by GCSE and then A-level results and then by interview? If universities, all those bright people, can't work out what kind of people they're dealing with at interview stage, then maybe the university should have their charters withdrawn. Now, I know it's true that there has been a drop-off in the number of kids from down the social scale who apply to university, but maybe that has more to do with the government's decision to double tuition fees to £3 a year than their parents' social standing. When your average graduate leaves university £13,500 in debt, which must be a terrifying prospect if you come from one of the many hard-working families in this country who get by on 20-odd grand a year. So, should universities be told what applicants' parents do for a living, Ed, or should they figure it out on their own?
Well, there's nothing wrong with collecting that data, but if it influences whether or not you get a place at university, I think that's absolutely wrong. I think it's ridiculous. First of all, university is meant to be a free choice for people who achieve a certain standard to go.
Well, it wasn't until the Tories scrapped grants,
and get a degree.
That took that freedom
and I
of
think,
choice
you know,
away.
if the government's simply saying everyone from working class background should go to university, then why don't they just say it and make it compulsory, make education compulsory until they're 21?
Yep.
And the other thing is, I think it's a way of covering up failure, because I think if schools aren't preparing kids properly for university, the answer is to make schools better, not to make it easier to get into university.
Do you think, I mean, the tuition fees, the Tories were the ones that got rid of the grants, tuition fees came in. Do you think that's had a role to play in deterring those from down the social scale?
There's not much evidence that it's put people off, because applications did dip and now they're back up again. And I think we've just got to face up to the fact that if we're going to have world-class universities, if we're going to compete with America, and if we're going to compete with India and China now, we're going to have to expand higher education and people are going to have to pay for it. What I do think is that we've got to free up our universities. We've got to give them the freedom to charge the fees they want to charge, but the quid pro quo for that is they should be free as well to give the financial support to people who need it. And to put it bluntly, there are some families that could afford to pay more in tuition fees, and a lot of families could benefit from that by universities giving bursaries. Yeah,
I mean, or we could go back to the old system of means-tested grants, couldn't we? I mean, that's effectively what you're advocating.
That is effectively what I'm advocating.
Which is what the Tories scrapped.
Via the universities rather than
the universities.
Yeah.
Okay. Ian, are you concerned about this? It's what your parents do, not what you do, that counts?
Yeah, I think, I mean, apart from the issues of education, it's about two other things here. It's about information, and then secondly, the use to which that information is put and how wisely it's put. And a lot of us object in principle to having folks know about us and what we do. But there again...
Why do you think that is? Because we suspect people are going to misuse the information or use it against us?
Well, that would seem to be the fear, but there are lots of us, you included, me, all of us sitting here, are probably pretty used to the fact that a lot of people know an awful lot about us. And we actually probably don't worry about having identity cards or giving this information because it's pretty freely accessible anyway, because we're somewhat, to some degree, in the public spotlight. So in a sense, you know, if you ask me, I'd much rather have an identity card. I don't have a driving licence. I've never taken a driving test. So I'd actually like a nice little piece of paper that said, you know, who I am and had my photo on it. I have no problem with that. I don't have a problem about giving people information.
But what if that information is used against you?
Misused in the sense that we're talking about here, then clearly it is... I mean, it's an enormous and onerous responsibility to be decided who should get what quality of education based on the experiences of their parents.
See, that to me is the problem with identity cards. All right, it may be on your identity card that you went to university. You may not have even thought 2 years ago that that would ever be used against your own children, but it will be now. It'll be used against your children and their chance of going to universities themselves. That's the problem with an identity card, is you've got no idea what the agenda of future governments is going to be.
The other thing is these things, you know, they always end up skewing the system. You know, the middle classes are pretty bright, and, you know, Once you work out your kid can't get into university because he went to public school, what happens? He goes to the local sixth form college,
absolutely,
and you get a private tutoring.
It'll be a licence for cheating.
It's a licence, exactly. And why not just have a straightforward system where if you're clever enough and good enough, you get into university?
And then means test the financial
But I think
side of it.
I do have to say, even beyond that, I know, because I know families where this is happening at the moment, where there are bright kids, and the notion of being clever and good enough is all very well, but the terror, the fear, is about enormous debt being accrued along the way. And when you come from a family where 20 grand or 25 grand is the combined income of mum and dad, the prospect of leaving university with a debt equivalent to what they earn in a year, or one parent earns in a year, that puts a lot of people off. Let's throw it open down to you. Should universities be entitled to know what your parents do for a living and be able to use that information to grade who gets in and who doesn't? Let's see what you've got to say.